Ms.Tammy Waller. She's the Director for K-12 Social Studies and World Languages at the Arizona Department of Education. Prior to taking this position 4 years ago, she spent 23 years as a social studies teacher in Deer Valley Unified School District, Dysart Unified School District, and at Arizona School for the Arts. She currently manages the Seal of Biliteracy program and the Excellence in Civic Engagement program for the state.
Thank you, and thank you for coming to the library today. And I would like to thank Dr. Barlingay for making those appointments to meet with me, emailing me, and calling me last year to let me know about her passion for her language and language for all students. And just like Dr. Barlingay said, she was worried coming into the State Department of Education as a worker at the Department of Education for the last 4 years. Sometimes I get scared when people come to the Department of Education because a lot of times they're angry about something. But she was not angry. She was so passionate and so full of love and just wanted so much to let me know about her culture, about her language, and about everything that was happening. So I'm really excited that I'm able to be here today. So when I think about language, I'm an accidental language director. When I was hired 4 years ago at the Department of Education, I was hired as their social studies director, where I felt very strongly that I had a lot of experience. I lived social studies, taught history and economics and politics and geography for 23 years. And once I got the job, my boss said, oh, by the way, you are also the world language director. And I was like, okay. And over the last 4 years, I've immersed myself in learning about these wonderful programs that students and teachers are taking part in. And I'm really glad that I'm an accidental language director because it's part of my favorite part of the job that I do. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the state and the Seal of Biliteracy and what we're doing to protect and to increase language acquisition and for all languages, not just the languages taught in the high schools. And one of the ways we do that is through the Seal of Biliteracy. So the question that we ask ourselves all the time is, are our students world ready? Are they ready to be members of a global interdependent society full of diversity? And the job of the school and the Department of Education as part of that is to prepare those students to be world ready. And unfortunately, sometimes when it comes to certain aspects, our students here in the United States are not world ready. There's an old joke that says, what do you call a person who can speak 3 languages? Trilingual. A person who can speak 2 languages? Bilingual. A person who can speak 1 language? American. And it's language acquisition and becoming bilingual and trilingual and more is something that hasn't caught on as much in the United States education system. I was listening to NPR the other day, and they were talking about European children. And by the time most European children enter 1st grade, they are already learning a 2nd language. By the time they graduate from their elementary years, they are proficient in that 2nd language and well on their way to proficiency in a 3rd language. And many of them graduate and go into their post-secondary education, trilingual and above. So in Arizona especially, because we do not even have a graduation requirement for learning a world language, it was really important for us to think about this question of being world ready and what could we do in order to do that with what was in our power at the Department of Education. So we looked at a lot of research, and we looked at some economic development research that talked about how because of globalization and many of our jobs now require students to become bilingual, the United States had to strengthen its world language programs. We also looked at some data from the Department of Defense and from Foreign Relations Committee, which talked about the fact that the Department of Defense cannot fill language jobs. 75% of the jobs in critical languages are left either unfilled or they're left filled by individuals who do not have the capability to understand, to translate, to be part of it. So we have kind of a language deficit here in the United States. And language study is really important because it creates understanding. And we live in a society where there's a little bit more maybe conflict happening even within our communities. But when you break bread with somebody and you learn a language and you learn about culture, all of a sudden you see the commonalities between you, and those things aren't an issue anymore. So we wanted our students to be world ready economically. We wanted them to have a cultural understanding, and we really at the Department of Ed didn't have any power to say we have to have more languages taught. We can't do that. That comes from the legislature. So we had decided that to prepare students for this, I'm just going to skip through these, we had a solution that was the seal of biliteracy. So we wanted to encourage students to either learn a second language or to not lose their first language. Because the seal of biliteracy was established not only for students who spoke English to take the effort to learn a second or a third language, but it was also, and I think more importantly, for students who have a heritage language, who come to us already with a language other than English, and to keep that language and to continue to learn and become proficient in that language. Because unfortunately, sometimes the school system almost pushes that language out in the acquisition of English for those students. So we wanted those students to see their heritage language is important, especially our Native students. We have 22 First People, or nations in Arizona alone. And these are indigenous peoples who, by law, their language was taken away from them. And we wanted to encourage those students who were in the school system and those parents to push their children to learn those languages again, and to look towards the individuals in the communities who knew those languages, the elders many times in those communities, to go into the schools and to teach those languages to their students. And I'm really excited to say that we have had students in the last 2 years earn the seal of biliteracy in Navajo, which was very exciting to us, and we're working with the Office of Indian Education here in Arizona to really get more of our 22 tribes to start pursuing the seal of biliteracy. So the seal of biliteracy, this map now is a little bit old. Every state is either pursuing the seal of biliteracy or has a seal of biliteracy except North Dakota and Montana. And Arizona was one of the first adopters of the seal, which was really exciting. So what does the seal of biliteracy do? The seal of biliteracy was passed on my birthday in 2016, and it was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor due to the effort of parents and world language teachers who said we have to do something here in Arizona to promote biliteracy and bilingualism. So the seal rewards graduating seniors who are proficient in English and at least one other language. And they show that proficiency by passing an assessment in the second language, whether it be English or it be a language like French or German or Chinese. And the seal is put on the diploma, and then it's recorded on their transcript. So when a college gets the students' transcripts, it shows that they've reached proficiency and in that language. And we're working with the colleges to see what we can do at this point to help those students then maybe get into higher language courses. So we're having those conversations right now. So the requirements are the student has to graduate from an Arizona school, they have to be proficient in English, and they have to be proficient in another language. And there's a list of assessments for those other languages, But for heritage speakers, there's an alternative means of assessment, and this is something we talked about in our meetings, that if your school district participates in the Seal of Biliteracy and you have a child who speaks proficient a language other than a language that's taught in their school, then they can use a portfolio assessment to determine the proficiency. So I know that a lot of language schools have developed here in Arizona where students maybe go and learn Korean because they come from a Korean heritage, or they learn Chinese, or they learn all sorts of different languages. And now what we can do is we can work with those schools and match them up with their school districts, which is what I did with Jamie and Chandler. And then those school districts, when students are getting ready to get the Seal of Biliteracy, they can offer students the Seal of Biliteracy testing in a language that isn't taught in their school. So we're really excited because we're starting to see some heritage speakers getting the Seal of Biliteracy through the alternative means. So 2017 was year one of the program, and we had 7 school districts and charters participate. 316 students earned the seal in 4 languages: Spanish, French, German, and Mandarin. Those were languages that were being taught in their school. But the next year got a little bit more exciting. In 2018, we had 20 schools participate, or school districts. We had 940 seals of biliteracy, and we began to track students who English was not their first language. And that year we had 179 students get the seal of biliteracy who English was their second language, and they had a heritage language that they came in with that they earned the seal in. And look at the list, okay? So we still have Spanish, French, Mandarin, and German, but for the first time we have students earning the seal in Navajo. We have students earning the seal in Japanese. We have students earning the seal in Hebrew and in Russian. And the Hebrew and the Russian were heritage speakers who earned that seal. And look at the list of the school districts. So we're on year 3. We just finished year 3, and we're waiting for everything to come in. September 1st is the deadline, so I don't have all the numbers yet. But 27 school districts and charters participated. We added new assessments for students. We added a portfolio for American Sign Language. We added a Cambridge exam, and the Navajo Nation created a Seal of Biliteracy test for their students. I've looked at the preliminary data, and I can tell you that we have Arabic for the first time. We have Korean for the first time. I haven't looked at everything yet because it hasn't all come in, but already we have over 600 students who have earned the seal, and I've only received 5 school districts at this point out of the 27. So I'm really excited about what will happen in the future as we look towards the next year. So the goals of the Department of Education. Our goal is to increase the number of LEAs. Those are school districts or charters. It stands for Local Education Agency. So Chandler is an LEA, but if your children go to BASIS, that's an LEA also, but it's an individual charter school. We want to increase the number of seals awarded, increase the participation in our rural areas, especially our Native communities. We want to collect data on the number of dual language immersion programs, provide more support and professional development, increase the participation, and then right now school districts, they offer these programs, but they don't, other than getting the prestige of having these programs and choice for students, the state doesn't really reward them in any way at the school district. We're trying to get that as part of a school report card that comes out if your school's an A school or a B school. We're trying to look at the Seal of Biliteracy and having that count as part of that career readiness for students. And then we're supporting policy changes right now, changes to allow English language learners into dual language immersion programs and things like that. Changes to require a world languages, a minimum number of world languages years that students have to take to graduate, since they have to do it at the university anyway. So this is where we're at the Department of Education. And as I was talking to other individuals, I was thinking about maybe the next step is to look at all the language schools outside of the K-12 school system that are teaching students on the weekends, to keep their culture, to keep their language, and how can we partner them with their school districts in order to recognize this. And as I was watching the presentations and everything, I was thinking to myself too, we have a newsletter that we send out to teachers and administrators every month. And things like this, what we did here today, I'm going to ask for some pictures, and I want to do a little write-up in the newsletter about it, so other individuals, other schools see what's happening here in Chandler, and they might have some ideas or some questions, so we can spread these ideas more. Thank you so much for this opportunity.